Okay, last on our agenda, under discussion and correspondence, we have a request from the village board for us to review a petition for, I guess, change to zoning, amendment to zoning for 40 Radio Circle.
Oh, yeah.
And this concerns, I think, a request to add to the RDX zone veterinary hospitals. So we have in our packet, we have, I think, the minutes of a village board meeting, or I guess they may have actually made a motion. But what's more important is we have a summary of their operations, and I think we have their actual request that they made to the village board
This
in
is
the petition.
the petition, right, Mike?
Yes, this is the
Okay,
petition.
yeah.
So that's in our packet.
Right, got it.
And I think that's what they submitted to the village board. And I think representatives of the applicant are here. Hi,
Yes.
welcome.
Hi, I am Dr. Lindsey Thomas. This is my partner, Dr. Valerie Carril. We together make up C&T Veterinary Services, and we are the ones who put in the petition for the zoning amendment change to permit veterinary clinics in the RDX zone. So yeah, we currently have a lease at 40 Radio Circle Drive. And so here is a little map of the area. So the RDX zone currently serves as a buffer zone between the more commercial manufacturing type uses and the residential areas. A veterinary clinic or other professional service in that area will fill what we believe is a community need, but will minimize the negative impacts on nearby residential areas. So in the last 5 to 10 years, there has been a huge growth in pet ownership, and there still remains only one vet clinic within Mt Kisco. In 2019, the land use plan suggested making the RDX zone a bit more flexible so it can accommodate, future market demand and community needs without really causing a lot of disruption to the area. So just a little overview of what our plan is, similar to any other service-oriented professional business. We plan to operate during kind of regular hours, Monday to Friday, 8 to 6, Saturdays, 8 to 1. Staff, pretty small staff for a vet clinic, so initially about 6 employees. So similar to what you'd expect in like a medical or dental facility. We're not anticipating a huge increase in traffic. At this point, we're thinking an average of about 146 vehicles per week, with the majority of that just being regular passenger vehicles with employees, our clients that come and go throughout the week, and then our laboratory services pick up in a regular passenger vehicle. Probably about 3 times a week for deliveries, FedEx and UPS trucks. That may even not end up being an increase because that building already receives regular deliveries from FedEx and UPS. And then just the additional services that we would need, medical waste pickup, which is mainly your sharps and things that can't be disposed of in regular garbage. Usually we only get that about every 3 months. And then cremation service anywhere from 0 to 3 times per week, which also just uses a regular small commercial van. So it shouldn't be a huge impact on the area. So
I'm sorry, you're not cremating on site. That's a truck that comes and goes.
Correct, yes. There is a van that comes to bring to their own services, their own place just for services. And then just about parking. So for veterinary clinics, the code requires about 8 spaces for this size office. The suite that we would occupy already has 11 dedicated spaces. So the 5 that you can see on the side of the building, that would be where the employees would park. That would be where the clients would park, and then 5 at the back where the employees could park. Also, the majority of the current tenants are using the parking spaces at the front of the building, so there is ample parking in the back that's usually unused at the moment. So there should be plenty of parking at the area. And then we just have a floor plan of kind of how we're proposing. You want to talk a little bit about that?
So in the design of this floor plan, we really did take into consideration the current tenants that are occupying that space as well. And at this time, based on the design, the only adjoining space is this area here on the lower right. The right side is an exterior wall, and on the top of the picture is also an exterior wall. And then on the left over here, this area is a tenant space, but that is currently used as a utility area and trash. So there's not an actual office space or anything where we would have somebody directly on the other side of that wall. On the lower area here, it's a common area, which is the restrooms for the tenants as a whole, a communal space. Now, with the design that we have, our goal is to have a smaller waiting area, utilize the exam room, so have people wait in their vehicles, get designated an exam room to bring their patient, their pet directly into an exam room. That way we're not having dogs in the waiting area together, potentially not agreeing amongst each other. They can vocalize and bark, so we want to avoid that. And then we also have multiple exits so that we can do a flow basically and have somebody come in one area and exit the alternative space. The holding area, so we are not going to be having patients overnight. We are not doing boarding. We are not keeping anything when we are not during our normal operating hours. In the holding space, that is where our patients are going to be that are there for procedures. So they are going to be medicated for anesthesia, so they are going to be relaxed. Our goal is to have a stress-reduced environment. We don't want our patients anxious. We don't want ourselves to be anxious, our neighboring tenants. So that area is going to be utilized to hold those patients, which is also going to have additional sound attenuation. Yes, it doesn't have a direct neighboring space, but we do want to keep that into consideration where sound does travel. We want to be conscious of that. And then... Yes.
Before you change the page, the exit and entrance, is the exit to the rear
Yes.
of the parking lot? And then, of course, the entrance is where if you look out, you'll be looking at Lexington Avenue.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Oh, how do I use this? And then with odor control as well. So with the facility, we are going to be cleaning before and after each patient. We need to keep sanitation measures under control. As far as soiling goes, dogs are going to soil outside. We will have like bag
elimination
collection.
stations set up so that owners are encouraged to pick up after
Receptacles. And then we also have dedicated tasks for our current staff to also, make sure that they're out there once, twice a day at minimum to make sure that if anybody didn't clean up after their pet, it is cleaned up after. Our goal is to keep that environment clean and, welcoming. Okay, we already spoke about the holding, but basically we just want to have that sound attenuation, make sure that nothing is traveling. And again, that's going to be under direct supervision by our staff monitoring these patients, and they are going to be outpatient if anything is there. Nothing is going to be staying overnight.
Yeah, and the main thing is, it is not even daytime going to be a boarding facility. So any of our patients that are there, they have a medical need, they'll be receiving treatments, there'll be staff there making sure that they are not making excess noise. That's a problem for us too when working. So, okay. And then we worked with a physicist and recommendation from the Westchester Department of Health to help design a shielding plan for radiation because we do have an imaging room. So this kind of goes through, this is the plan that he made for us, and I can kind of, we can always send this to you after to read, but I'll just go through kind of the specifics on how it relates to our setup. The biggest concern to us was the fact that where our imaging room is set up, there is a tenant space on the other side of that wall. According to the physicist, based on the amount of x-rays we were taking each week and the minimal scatter from our machines and the distance away, that we actually didn't need to do anything special, but that was not good enough for us. We are concerned about exposing anyone to radiation, even if it was an allowed level of radiation. So the wall that we share with the tenant space, we are going to provide double shielding on that wall, which he has defined for us what that double shielding needs to be. We've also placed the operator booth, which is where the staff member that will be operating the x-ray, we we place that specifically between the machine and that wall. So that'll be just an extra layer of protection. So that will be either a lead-lined wall or equivalent, just to give us that extra space. Even though it's not necessary, we obviously don't want to feel like we are responsible for causing any radiation exposure. And then on the other side of that wall is just our staff room, which we will make sure that there is no one in that specific room when we're operating the x-rays.
And then exam 4 has no shielding?
Well, so the whole thing will have shielding. This is just additional that we're placing. Yeah. We also, so the exam rooms will not be necessarily in use. Well, we have 4 exam rooms. There's only 2 of us. We have 5 actually. There's only 2 of us that will be practicing. So it's unlikely that we will need to. We don't run x-rays all day, every day. And that was his, kind of the big point the physicist created, was the fact that because we are not using it very frequently, we safely can, use it without it, but.
And we also have more control of what's happening within our rentals unit, whereas if the tenant is doing office work on the other side, we can't be like, hey, excuse us, we're taking x-rays. So we're just accounting for the consistency for them being protected at all times.
Good.
And so, we obviously are not doing any changes to the outside of the building itself. So all of our improvements will be just basic inside renovations. Because it previously was a pediatric dentist's office, we actually are going to try and reuse as much of that as possible. So we should hopefully have less improvements than another business going into there. We're anticipating only, hopefully only 4 weeks with just basic things like cabinetry, flooring. And so obviously there will be some noise during the times, but nothing that should be above and beyond any other business coming in and doing some renovations. Waste. So during operation, going to be pretty similar to a household with garbage, and anything above that, like animal waste, still should be pretty minimal. Small biological samples all get sent to the laboratory. Larger materials will be sent to the cremation facility, so nothing that we necessarily need to dispose of on site. And similarly, during demolition and construction, should be like that of any residential construction job. Definitions.
So we have been listening to some of the meetings and being present for some as well. There was always this question as far as what defined an animal clinic versus a hospital. And, talking amongst ourselves, we weren't really sure either. We had the ideas based on what we can relate from human medicine, but we did take some time to look up the American Veterinary Medical Association as well as joining it with the New York State Education Department to see what definitions they had, which would be what we would follow. There's another slide.
Yeah, so basically we know that when you're any zoning change, there's a lot of definitions that goes into it. So rather than having to start, from scratch with that, these are organizations that already have a lot of these things defined, so you don't have to redefine them. So we just wanted to provide
Thank you.
that. And then, this is kind of what we are proposing for our zoning change.
So basically, animal veterinary clinic and/or hospital provides healthcare services or treatment exclusively for domestic pets, does not offer overnight boarding, holding, or hospitalization. The clinic does not offer outdoor facilities, does not provide cremation services, and the operator of the animal veterinary hospital and/or clinic is responsible for employing good management practices to discourage undesirable odors and excessive noise.
And then kind of just a little background of us. So we've both been kind of veterinarians for at least a decade between us. And so
Each of us, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And we've been at a lot of places. We've seen how veterinary clinics are in buildings with other tenants and how they kind of work well together. So we are aware of the challenges and want to make sure that we maintain good relationships with everyone around us. Any questions?
It's interesting.
Thank you.
It's interesting that that you two are part of the minority, because in your statistics you point out that 45% of the local population are dog owners, and 25% are cat owners, and you are both cat owners. Just a small point.
Good to have that on the record. Thank you, Bob.
I think most veterinarians end up with a lot
Sounds
of
like a
animals
minority.
through-
It sounds like a
through our
minority
town.
business to me.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the detail that you put into that. I don't think we've seen that detail in a long time, and that'll be very.
But Mike, one thing, just
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
detail is wonderful, and it's a good presentation. But is there a larger issue first associated with the petition? There was a number of issues regarding changes of code and so forth.
Yeah, I think overall what we're talking about tonight is, I think it's helped by the detail, and obviously you've been following the process that we went through with the previous petitioner. I think we are well versed, or I thought we were well versed in all that we need to consider. I don't think we talked about radiation shielding.
That's a good topic. I mean,
I appreciate it being brought up because I think we're still in that. Well, the village board is still in the process of considering that previous petition, and that's probably something we should forward to them to consider for that too. I don't know if anybody else agrees, but I don't remember discussing it. So anyway, Jan, do you see any issues in the RDX zone that would make it unsuitable for veterinary hospitals or veterinary clinics? Kind of like what we discussed before and what we just heard presented tonight.
I don't know. I think I made that clear at when we're reviewing the other petition, that I think it's completely compatible at this particular property, 40 Radio Circle, and also within the entirety of the RDX zone.
Great. Peter, do you concur? Any things stick out as a concern that's unique to the RDX that we should be looking for?
Considering the zoning district having the availability for labs and other uses that are similar, I think it's a good location as well. I concur with Jan.
Okay. Any board members have any concerns about the RDX? Everyone knows where that is. The post office is there, and Mt Kisco Childcare, and the storage places we've been talking about.
It's consistent.
Okay. Crystal, any comments?
No, I think it's great. It's appropriate for the area. It is consistent with everything that's around. I am curious if you're going to only be doing dogs and cats, or if you're going to do exotics as well.
Like bunnies.
So
Like buddies.
Nail trims, maybe.
yeah, I mean, I've minimally treated exotics. There are a lot of exotic vets around that specialize in it, so they're much more equipped.
Nothing
I have
more.
on occasion, and when I've worked in places that we didn't have nearby exotics hospitals, but I tend to leave that to the experts, although I do love guinea pigs, so I'm excited when they come in for nail trims.
Yeah, there's a lot of dog and cat only vets around here, so just something to think about when you open. But yeah, it's a great use. It's a great space, and you've done your research, and we love that. And I love that you listen to the other meetings and you address the questions that we have.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
Wonderful.
appreciate it too. I think it's, I don't know if I need to comment, but, I think we had a pretty big national corporation come in with a lot less detail.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. So we all received an email from board council. Do we want to, Lisa, how do you recommend we proceed on, I think everybody's agreed that we're favorable for this use in this zone. And I've seen you've shared with us a memo. How do we move forward to share that recommendation?
So I would just do a motion that the board convey a positive recommendation and as set forth in the memo of today's date, and as simple as that.
Okay. I think we can do that. Okay. And any other comments before we take that action from consultants or board members?
No.
All right. Okay. I'm going to recommend, I'll make a motion that the board recommend to the Village Board of Trustees a favorable recommendation for the requested zoning change in the RDX and in the memorandum drafted by the Planning Board's council for March 26, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous. So we'll have that forwarded to the Board of Trustees. Thank you. All right, have a great night.
You brought your own fan club. I mean, come on. That's good.
All right, I'm going to make a motion